Princess Lyra Velthara gripped the controls of her scout ship as it spiraled toward the planet below. Red warning lights flashed across every screen. The ship's computer screamed alerts in her ears. She had been on a diplomatic mission when something went terribly wrong. Now her ship was dying and she was falling from the sky. The planet rushed up to meet her. Trees and mountains filled her view. Lyra pulled hard on the controls, trying to slow her descent. The ship's emergency systems kicked in, but it wasn't enough. She crashed through the tops of tall trees and slammed into the ground. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Then everything went black. When Lyra opened her eyes, pain shot through her body. Her royal armor had saved her life, but she was badly hurt. Smoke filled the cockpit. She released her safety harness and fell onto the crumpled floor. Every movement hurt. She crawled through the wreckage and out into the open air. The planet looked beautiful. Blue sky stretched above her. Strange trees surrounded the crash site. The air smelled clean and fresh. But Lyra knew she was in serious trouble. Her communication system was destroyed. The emergency beacon wasn't working. Her ship would never fly again. She was alone on an unknown planet with no way to call for help. Lyra checked her armor's systems. Most of them still worked. She had medical supplies, a scanner, and weapons. The armor's computer showed the planet had breathable air and Earth-like gravity. Actually, the gravity felt heavier than what she was used to. Walking would be difficult. She looked at her scanner. Strange energy readings came from somewhere to the north. They were strong and steady, not natural. Something built by intelligent beings. Lyra felt hope rise in her chest. Maybe someone lived on this planet. Maybe they could help her. The princess began walking. Each step felt heavy. The extra gravity pulled at her body. She was the third daughter of Emperor Velthara, trained in both combat and diplomacy. She had visited dozens of worlds. But this planet was different. It felt wild and dangerous in ways she couldn't explain. After 2 hours of walking, Lyra found something impossible. A massive door built into the side of a mountain. The entrance was huge, big enough to drive vehicles through. But that wasn't what shocked her. The door was hidden. Camouflage technology covered it. If her scanner hadn't detected the energy signature, she would have walked right past it. Lyra studied the entrance. The design was completely unknown. It didn't match any civilization in the galactic database. The architecture was simple but strong. Everything looked built for function, not beauty. A control panel sat next to the door. The writing on it was in a language she had never seen. She tried her royal security codes. Nothing happened. The system didn't recognize galactic standard protocols. Lyra frowned and looked closer at the panel. Below the strange writing, she found something unexpected. A simple mechanical keypad with numbers. Ancient technology. She pressed several combinations. On her 5th try, the massive door began to open. Cold air rushed out from inside. Emergency lights flickered on, illuminating a long tunnel. Lyra drew her weapon and stepped inside carefully. The door closed behind her with a heavy thud. She was committed now. The tunnel led deep into the mountain. Lyra followed it until she entered a massive underground facility. Her breath caught in her throat. The complex stretched in every direction. She saw training rooms, barracks, equipment storage, and command centers. Everything was built on a huge scale. Motion sensors detected her presence. Suddenly, holographic displays activated throughout the facility. Lyra jumped back, raising her weapon. But the holograms weren't threats. They were recordings. Training videos. She watched in amazement as strange beings appeared in the holograms. They walked on 2 legs like her people. They had 2 arms and 2 eyes. But they were different. Their bodies were built thicker and stronger. Their faces showed determination and focus. The holograms showed these beings doing impossible things. They ran for hours without stopping. They climbed walls with their bare hands. They fought each other in brutal hand-to-hand combat. They lifted weights that would crush a Meridian warrior. They crawled through mud under barbed wire. They swam in freezing water. They survived in deserts without food or water. Lyra watched one hologram where these beings ran while carrying heavy packs. The training instructor yelled at them constantly. The beings looked exhausted, but none of them quit. They pushed through pain and fatigue like it meant nothing. Another hologram showed combat training. The beings fought with their hands and feet. Their strikes were fast and powerful. They learned to break bones, disable opponents, and kill with their bare hands. The techniques were brutal but effective. Nothing like the elegant martial arts of the Meridian Empire. Lyra's armor began analyzing the holograms. The computer worked to translate the strange language. Words started appearing on her display. She learned these beings called themselves humans. This facility was named Fort Blackstone. It was a training center for something called Terran Special Operations. The princess walked deeper into the facility. She found a room full of weapons. Hundreds of them. The designs were completely foreign. She picked up one weapon carefully. It was heavy and made of metal. Her armor identified it as a kinetic weapon. It threw small metal projectiles at incredibly high speeds, simple but deadly. She found armor suits hanging in storage. They were designed to enhance the already impressive abilities of these humans. Lyra's mind raced. If humans needed enhancement armor, how strong were they naturally? And if this was elite training, how many more humans existed? A chill ran down her spine. The galaxy knew nothing about these humans, but these humans had built this facility. They had trained warriors here. They had prepared for something. The question was what? Lyra found a computer terminal and activated it. Files began downloading into her armor's database. Training manuals, combat doctrine, personnel records, video logs. She learned that humans had evolved on a planet called Earth, a world with harsh conditions and dangerous predators, a world that had forged them into natural warriors. As the download continued, Lyra sat down heavily. She was exhausted and in pain, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. She had been sent to negotiate peace between her empire and their enemies, the Catharn Collective. Now she had stumbled onto something far more significant, a species that could change everything. The download finished. Thousands of files now sat in her armor's memory, everything about human training, tactics, and capabilities. Lyra stood and looked around the empty facility. Where had all the humans gone? Why was this place abandoned? She walked to another terminal and accessed the facility's final logs. Her translator worked slowly through the human language. Then she found it. The last transmission from Commander Nathan Blake. The humans had detected alien ships near their solar system. They had evacuated this facility and others like it. They had gone home to defend their world. Lyra felt her blood run cold. The alien ships they had detected were Catharn scouts, the same enemy her empire was fighting. The Catharn were heading toward human space, and the humans had no idea what was coming for them. Lyra spent the next several hours exploring Fort Blackstone. Each room she entered taught her something new about humans. Each discovery made her more amazed and more worried. She found sleeping quarters first. The beds were simple and hard, nothing like the comfortable sleeping pods used throughout the galaxy. Humans apparently slept on flat surfaces with thin padding. Personal items remained on shelves and in lockers. Photos showed humans with their families, smiling faces, children, loved ones. These warriors had lives beyond combat. One locker belonged to someone named Jake Morrison. His photo showed a young man with brown hair and bright eyes. Letters from his mother sat in a bundle tied with string. She wrote about their farm in Iowa, about planting season, about missing her son. Lyra touched the letters gently. These humans loved and were loved, just like her people. Another locker belonged to Lisa Chen. Her athletic trophies lined one shelf. Running medals hung on hooks. A journal contained her daily thoughts. She wrote about pushing herself harder, about wanting to be the best, about proving women could do anything men could do. Lyra smiled. This Lisa reminded her of herself. Carlos Martinez had kept a collection of music files. His notes described songs from his homeland. Pictures showed him with a large family at gatherings. Many generations together. Lyra listened to one of his songs. The music was strange but beautiful. It spoke of home and belonging. These weren't just warriors. They were people with hopes and dreams. They had families waiting for them. They had chosen to become soldiers to protect those they loved. The realization made Lyra's chest tight. These humans were more like her people than she had expected. She moved to the training areas. Interactive displays still functioned. Lyra activated one and suddenly found herself inside a simulation. The program adapted to her biology and started a basic training course. She was supposed to run 2 miles in under 15 minutes. Lyra started running. The extra gravity made every step difficult. Her lungs burned. Her legs ached. She barely finished in 23 minutes. The simulation marked her as failing. This was basic human training. She had failed what they considered easy. The next simulation tested combat skills. Holographic enemies appeared. Lyra used her royal combat training to fight them. She moved with grace and precision, techniques perfected over years. The simulation stopped her. A holographic instructor appeared, too slow, too predictable. "You would be dead," the instructor said in translated human language. The simulation showed her the human way: fast strikes to vulnerable points, no wasted movement, brutal efficiency. The goal wasn't to look good. The goal was to survive and win. Lyra reset the simulation and tried again, and again, and again. Each time she learned something new. Hours passed. Lyra worked through simulation after simulation. She began to understand how humans thought about combat. They didn't have the strongest bodies in the galaxy. They weren't the fastest. But they were adaptable, creative, relentless. They never gave up. One simulation showed something called the Battle of Thermopylae. Ancient human history. 300 warriors held a narrow pass against thousands of enemies. They knew they would die. They fought anyway. They gave their lives to buy time for others to escape. The concept of willing sacrifice struck Lyra deeply. She found the facility's library next. Thousands of books and files on human history. Wars, so many wars. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They had developed warfare into a science. Every conflict taught them new lessons. They learned from their mistakes and never made the same error twice. But the library also held poetry, philosophy, art, music, stories of love and loss. Humans weren't just warriors. They were thinkers and dreamers. They created beauty even while preparing for violence. The contradiction fascinated Lyra. She discovered human sayings and mottos. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Never give up, never surrender. Death before dishonor. Leave no one behind. These phrases revealed how humans thought. They valued determination above almost everything else. Lyra accessed personnel files. She learned about the humans who had trained here, ordinary people who became extraordinary through determination and training. A factory worker, a teacher, a farmer, a student. All of them had volunteered to become commandos. They had chosen the hardest path possible. The training statistics amazed her. Human commandos could operate for days without sleep. They could survive in any environment from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. They could parachute from aircraft, swim for miles, climb mountains, and fight at the end of it all. Their endurance was legendary even by their own standards. She found video logs from Commander Nathan Blake. He spoke directly to the camera, recording thoughts for his superiors. His voice was calm and confident. He talked about preparing his soldiers for first contact with alien species. Humans knew someone else was out there in the stars. They were getting ready. "We don't know who we'll meet," Blake said in one recording. "They might be friendly. They might be hostile. But humanity will be ready. We've survived everything Earth threw at us. We'll survive the galaxy too." Lyra played another recording. Blake talked about human philosophy of warfare. "We fight not because we love violence, but because we love peace. We train for war so we can preserve peace. Every soldier here knows what they're defending: home, family, freedom. That's what makes us strong." The princess understood. Humans weren't mindless killers. They were protectors. Warriors born from a harsh world who fought to protect softer things, just like her own people, just like the Meridian Royal Guard. She discovered the facility's medical bay. Human medicine was advanced in different ways than galactic standard. They had learned to repair terrible injuries, to push their bodies beyond normal limits, to enhance themselves with technology. The medical files showed procedures that would horrify most species, but seemed normal to humans. Lyra found the armory again and studied the weapons more carefully. Each one was designed for maximum effect with minimum resources. Humans built weapons that were reliable, durable, and deadly. They could maintain them in the field with basic tools. Everything was practical. She tested one weapon on the firing range, following the safety instructions carefully. The recoil nearly knocked her down. These weapons were built for stronger beings. The noise was deafening. The power was incredible. A single shot could punch through armored vehicles. As Lyra explored, her armor continued translating and cataloging information. She learned about human military structure, chain of command, unit tactics, strategic thinking. They had refined warfare to an art form over millennia of constant conflict. One thing kept striking her. Humans prepared for every possibility. They had backup plans for their backup plans. They trained for scenarios that seemed impossible. They refused to be caught unprepared. This mindset permeated everything in the facility. She found a memorial wall, names engraved on black stone. Fallen soldiers, humans who had died in training or in service. Each name had dates and a brief description. Died saving his unit. Gave her life for others. Never quit, never surrendered. These humans honored their dead by remembering their sacrifice. One name caught her attention. Sergeant Amy Foster. The description said she had thrown herself on an explosive to save her team. She left behind a daughter named Emma. Lyra touched the name gently. This human had chosen to die so others could live. The ultimate sacrifice. Lyra sat down, overwhelmed by everything she had learned. These humans were incredible. Dangerous, yes, but also honorable. They were warriors born from a difficult world who had turned hardship into strength. They were exactly the kind of allies her empire needed against the Catharn, but they were also the kind of enemy no one wanted to face. If humans decided to be hostile, they would be terrifying opponents. Their tactics, their determination, their refusal to accept defeat would make them incredibly dangerous. She accessed the final logs again. Commander Blake's last message included coordinates for the human home system. For Earth? Lyra stared at the numbers on her screen. She could return to her empire with this information. Her father would want to know about these humans. The military would want to assess the threat. But was that right? Humans didn't know about the galactic community. They didn't know about the Catharn threat heading their way. They had done nothing to deserve becoming targets. Warning them seemed like the right thing to do. Lyra's armor beeped a warning. Incoming ships. Her scanner showed Catharn signatures entering orbit. They had tracked her crash site. They were coming. She had very little time to decide what to do. Destroy this facility to keep its secrets safe, or preserve it and risk the Catharn learning about humans? Lyra had 6 hours before the Catharn reached her location. 6 hours to make an impossible decision. She paced through the command center, her mind racing with conflicting thoughts. The Catharn Collective had been at war with the Meridian Empire for 30 years. They were brutal conquerors who showed no mercy. They destroyed worlds that resisted them. They enslaved populations. They saw themselves as the rightful rulers of the galaxy, and now they were hunting her. If the Catharn found this facility, they would learn about humans. They would see human training and tactics. They would recognize humans as a potential threat. The Catharn would strike first, attacking Earth before humans even knew an enemy existed. Billions would die. Lyra could prevent that. She could destroy Fort Blackstone. The facility had self-destruct protocols built into its systems. One command would erase everything. The Catharn would find only ruins. Humanity would remain hidden at least for a while longer. But destroying this place felt wrong. This facility represented human dedication and sacrifice. The knowledge here could help her people fight the Catharn. Human tactics could turn the tide of the war. Was it right to destroy something so valuable? She thought about her duty. She was Princess Lyra Velthara, third daughter of the Emperor. Her responsibility was to her people first. Returning with intelligence about human capabilities could save Meridian lives. The military would want to study human combat doctrine, maybe even recruit humans as allies or mercenaries, but that path felt dirty. Humans didn't know about the galactic community. Using them without their knowledge seemed like a betrayal. Commander Blake's words echoed in her mind. Every soldier here knows what they're defending. Humans fought for home and family. They deserve to make their own choices. Lyra accessed the computer again and studied the Catharn approach vectors. 3 scout ships. Small crew. They were looking for survivors from her crash. If she could stop them here, buy more time, maybe she could find another solution. She made her decision. She would fight. The facility would become her fortress. She would use human tactics to defend human secrets, and if she survived, she would find a way to warn both humanity and her empire about the approaching storm. The princess began preparing. First, she downloaded every file she could onto her armor's memory storage. Training manuals, tactical guides, personnel records, everything. If the facility was destroyed, the knowledge wouldn't be lost. Next, she armed herself. She kept her own plasma rifle but added human weapons. A kinetic rifle, a sidearm, grenades, combat knife. She wore human tactical gear over her armor. The equipment felt heavy but solid. Built to last. Lyra studied the facility's layout. She marked choke points and ambush locations. She set traps using human weapons and the facility's training equipment. She placed explosive charges at key intersections. She activated the facility's automated defenses. Everything she had learned in the simulations she now put into practice. She found human combat armor in her size and put it on. The armor was basic compared to her royal suit, but it worked. The helmet had communication systems and targeting displays. Gloves protected her hands while allowing full mobility. Boots gripped any surface. It was functional and practical. The Catharn would expect a Meridian princess. They would expect someone who fought with honor and dignity. They would expect formal combat tactics. Lyra planned to give them something completely different. She would fight like a human commando. She recorded a message for her family. Her voice was steady despite her fear. "Father, if you receive this, I have died protecting something important. I discovered a species called humans. They are warriors like we have never seen, but they are also honorable. They deserve a chance to stand with us against the Catharn. Please find them. Please warn them. The coordinates are attached. I love you all." The message uploaded to her armor's emergency beacon. If she died, it would transmit automatically when someone found her body. 4 hours until the Catharn arrived. Lyra used the time to rest and review her plan. She ate human ration bars from storage. They tasted terrible but provided energy. She treated her injuries with the medical supplies. She meditated, clearing her mind for the battle ahead. She thought about the humans who had trained here: Jake Morrison, Lisa Chen, Carlos Martinez, Amy Foster, Commander Blake. All of them had prepared in this same facility. They had run these halls, fired on these ranges, learned in these classrooms. Now their techniques would keep their secrets safe. Lyra smiled grimly. The Catharn thought they were hunting a wounded princess. They had no idea what was waiting for them. 2 hours left. The princess positioned herself in the command center. From here, she could monitor the entire facility through security cameras. She could control doors, lights, and defensive systems. She could see her enemies coming. She checked her weapons one final time. Everything was loaded and ready. The rifle felt good in her hands. The weight was reassuring. She remembered the human saying, "Improvise, adapt, overcome." That was exactly what she would do. 1 hour. Lyra's sensors picked up the Catharn ships landing near her crash site. They would investigate the wreckage first. They would find her escape route. They would follow her tracks to Fort Blackstone. Everything was going according to plan. 30 minutes. Movement on the sensors. 3 Catharn warriors approaching the facility entrance. Lyra recognized the tactical patterns. These were experienced fighters. War Master Krell led them. She had seen his file in military briefings. He was dangerous and cruel. He collected trophies from his kills. Krell would want to capture her alive. A Meridian princess would be valuable. He could ransom her or use her for propaganda. That arrogance would be his weakness. He would underestimate her because he expected a princess, not a commando. The Catharn reached the entrance. Lyra watched them on camera. They were massive creatures, 8 feet tall with thick armor plating covering their bodies. They carried heavy weapons and moved with confidence. They had fought the Meridian Empire for decades. They knew how her people fought, but they didn't know how humans fought. Krell examined the facility entrance. He spoke to his warriors in their harsh language. Lyra's translator converted his words. "The princess is inside. She is injured and alone. We take her alive. She will bring glory to the collective." The Catharn entered the facility. The door closed behind them with a heavy thud, sealing them inside with her. Lyra's heart pounded. Fear and excitement mixed in her chest. She was about to fight 3 elite Catharn warriors using tactics from a species they had never encountered. She activated the facility's speaker system. When she spoke, her voice echoed through every hallway. She used the Catharn language, letting them know she understood them perfectly. "Welcome to Fort Blackstone. This is a human training facility. You are trespassing. Leave now or face the consequences." Krell's laughter boomed through the halls. "Princess Lyra, how considerate of you to announce yourself. Surrender now and you will not be harmed. Resist and I will make you beg for death." Lyra smiled coldly. She responded with a phrase she had learned from human history. 3 words that carried the weight of countless battles. 3 words that meant defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. "Come and take me." She cut the communication and triggered her first trap. Explosives detonated in the entrance tunnel. collapsing the ceiling. Tons of rock fell between the Catharn warriors, separating them. One warrior was cut off from the others. Now it was 3 fights instead of 1. Exactly as she planned. The isolated Catharn warrior roared in anger and charged toward the command center. Lyra watched him come. She had positioned herself perfectly. He entered the kill zone. She triggered the second trap. The floor beneath the warrior exploded upward. Training equipment that humans use for building strength became deadly projectiles. The Catharn screamed as metal bars pierced his armor. He fell, badly wounded. Lyra didn't hesitate. She appeared from her hiding spot and fired the human rifle. The kinetic rounds punched through weakened armor plates. The warrior died before he could raise his weapon. 1 down. 2 to go, but now Krell knew. This wasn't a normal fight. The princess wasn't following Meridian combat doctrine. She was using tactics he had never seen before. Traps, ambushes, terrain advantages. She was fighting like something new. She was fighting like a human. Krell roared in fury when his warrior died. The sound echoed through Fort Blackstone like thunder. Lyra heard anger and confusion in that roar. Good. Confused enemies made mistakes. She moved quickly through the facility, using her knowledge of the layout. The security cameras showed Krell and his remaining warrior trying to regroup. They moved cautiously now, expecting more traps. Lyra smiled. Fear was a weapon too. Humans understood that. She reached the training room where humans practiced hand-to-hand combat. Thick mats covered the floor. Weapons hung on the walls. Training dummies stood in corners. Lyra positioned herself behind a stack of equipment and waited. The second Catharn warrior entered first, weapon raised. He scanned the room carefully. Lyra held perfectly still. Humans called this patience. Wait for the right moment. Don't rush. Let the enemy come to you. The warrior moved deeper into the room. Lyra activated the holographic training system. Suddenly, 50 human soldiers appeared throughout the space. They weren't real, just light and sound, but they looked real. They moved like real fighters. The Catharn warrior spun around, trying to track all the targets. His weapon fired at holograms that couldn't be hurt. Lyra used the confusion. She threw a human flash grenade. Blinding light filled the room. The warrior screamed and stumbled backward. Lyra burst from cover. She fired the kinetic rifle in controlled bursts. Rounds hit the warrior's helmet, cracking the armor. He swung his weapon toward her, but she was already moving. She rolled across the mats and came up behind a training dummy. The Catharn fired wildly. His shots destroyed equipment and tore holes in walls. But they didn't hit Lyra. She kept moving, never staying in one place. Humans called it being a hard target. Make them chase you. Make them waste ammunition. She led him toward the corner where she had prepared her surprise. Heavy training equipment hung from chains above. Weight plates that human soldiers lifted to build strength. Each plate weighed hundreds of pounds. Lyra reached the detonator and pressed the button. The chains released. Tons of metal fell onto the Catharn warrior. His armor crumpled under the weight. He tried to push free, but Lyra was already there. She placed the rifle against his helmet and fired 3 times. The warrior stopped moving. 2 down. 1 to go, but Krell was different. He was a war master, a veteran of countless battles. He wouldn't fall for the same tricks. Lyra checked her weapons. The rifle was running low on ammunition. She had the sidearm, grenades, and her knife. It would have to be enough. She heard Krell's voice through the facility speakers. He had hacked into the communication system. Clever little princess. You fight without honor, hiding, using tricks. This is not the Meridian way, Lyra responded calmly. No, it's the human way. And it's working. Krell laughed, but it sounded forced. You think you can defeat me with these tricks? I have killed hundreds of your kind. You are nothing. Then come find me, Lyra challenged. Or are you afraid, Silence? Then Krell's heavy footsteps echoed through the halls. He was coming. Good. Lyra moved to her final position. The armory, surrounded by human weapons. This was where it would end. She checked her wounds. The crash injuries hurt badly now. Adrenaline had kept the pain away, but it was catching up with her. She used human medical supplies to inject stimulants. Not healthy, but necessary. She needed to stay alert for a few more minutes. Krell entered the armory like a storm. He didn't sneak or hide. He charged straight in, confident in his superior strength and armor. He saw Lyra standing in the center of the room, rifle aimed at him. Surrender, Krell demanded. You cannot win. I don't need to win, Lyra replied. I just need to make sure you lose, she fired. Krell's shields absorbed the shots easily. He laughed and advanced. Lyra kept firing until the rifle clicked empty. She dropped it and drew the human sidearm. More shots. Krell's shields flickered but held. He raised his own weapon. Lyra dove behind a weapons rack. The blast destroyed the rack and sent weapons flying. She rolled, grabbed a human grenade and threw it. The explosion rocked the armory. Krell stumbled but didn't fall, is that all? Krell mocked. I expected more from a Meridian princess. Lyra said nothing. She was moving, always moving. Krell fired again and again. Each shot came closer. Her armor took damage. She felt heat and pain. But she didn't stop. Humans never gave up. Neither would she. She reached the corner where she had prepared her final trap. Human explosive charges, enough to collapse this section of the facility. If she couldn't stop Krell, she would bury him. And herself. The human's knowledge would die with them both. Better that than let the Catharn have it. You are finished, Krell said. He stood between Lyra and the only exit. His weapon pointed at her chest. There is nowhere left to run. Lyra stood straight despite her pain. She met his eyes without fear. You're right. No more running, she charged. Not away from Krell, but toward him. The move surprised him. Meridians didn't do frontal attacks against superior opponents. But humans did. Humans called it aggression. Take the fight to the enemy, Krell fired. Lyra's shields absorbed the first shot. The second shot hit her shoulder. Pain exploded through her body. She kept going. She closed the distance and went low under his weapon. Her combat knife found the joint in his armor. She drove it deep. Krell roared and backhanded her. Lyra flew across the room and hit the wall hard. Her vision blurred. She could taste blood. But she had hurt him. His armor was compromised. The War Master pulled the knife from his armor and threw it aside. He advanced on Lyra slowly. You are brave. I will make your death quick. Lyra's hand found the detonator. You first, she pressed the button. The explosive charges detonated throughout the armory. The ceiling collapsed. Walls crumbled. Fire and smoke filled the air. Tons of rock fell from above. Lyra threw herself toward the exit. She rolled through the doorway just as the ceiling came down. Behind her, Krell's final scream was cut short. The armory became his tomb. The blast threw Lyra down the hallway. She hit the floor hard and slid. Everything hurt. Her armor was barely functioning. She tried to stand but fell. Her leg was broken. Her shoulder was burned. Blood covered her face, but she was alive, and the Catharn were dead. Lyra dragged herself to the command center. Every movement was agony. She left a trail of blood behind her. Her vision kept fading in and out. She knew she was dying, but she had to complete her mission first. She reached the computer terminal. With shaking hands, she activated the facility's self-destruct sequence. Not the immediate explosion she had threatened Krell with. A delayed destruction that would leave nothing for anyone else to find. The Catharn ship in orbit would detect the explosions and assume everyone died. They would leave. The timer showed 30 minutes. Lyra had that long to live. Maybe less. She clutched the data chip containing all the human knowledge. At least this would survive. Someone would find it. Maybe humans. Maybe her people. Someone would learn what she had discovered. She thought about the humans who had trained here. She had fought using their tactics. She had survived using their knowledge. In a way, they had saved her life even though they had never met her. She wished she could thank them. Lyra's armor detected new ships entering orbit. Too many to be Catharn reinforcements. The energy signatures were different. Unknown. Her dying brain struggled to process the information. The facility's communication system activated. A voice spoke in the human language. Strong, confident, concerned. This is Commander Nathan Blake of the Terran starship Valkyrie. We detected weapons fire and explosions at Fort Blackstone. Is anyone alive down there? Lyra tried to laugh but coughed blood instead. Of course, the humans had come home. She managed to reach the communication panel. Her voice was weak but clear. Commander Blake, this is Princess Lyra Velthara of the Meridian Empire. I crashed here. Catharn attacked. I used your tactics. They're dead. Silence. Then Blake's voice returned, filled with shock and confusion. You're an alien? You fought Catharn? What are Catharn? Never mind. Stay where you are. We're coming to get you. Self-destruct active, Lyra whispered. 26 minutes, hurry. We're coming. Hold on, Lyra closed her eyes. Human voices filled the communication channel. Orders being given. Ships launching. A rescue in progress. She smiled. She would meet the humans after all. Maybe she wouldn't die today. And if she did, at least she had protected their secrets. She had fought like they would have fought. She had made them proud. The darkness closed in. Lyra's last thought was simple. She had done her duty, both to her empire and to humanity. Lyra woke to bright lights and unfamiliar sounds. Her body felt strange, floating in something warm. She tried to move but couldn't. Panic flashed through her mind before training took over. She forced herself to stay calm and assess her situation. She was in a medical tank. Liquid surrounded her body, helping her heal. Tubes and sensors connected to her skin. Through the transparent wall, she could see a room full of equipment. And standing nearby, watching her with concern, was a human. The human noticed her eyes were open. He moved closer and spoke gently. "Don't try to move. You're safe now. I'm Ryan Cooper, combat medic. We pulled you out of that facility with about 3 minutes to spare. You're aboard the Terran starship Valkyrie." Lyra tried to speak, but the breathing tube prevented it. Ryan understood. He adjusted something on the medical tank's control panel. A screen appeared in her view. Text scrolled across it. "You can communicate through this," Ryan explained. "Your armor had translation software. We connected it to our systems. Blink twice for yes, once for no. Can you understand me?" Lyra blinked twice. "Good, you've been unconscious for 2 days. We had to rebuild your shoulder and leg. Your species heals differently than humans, but our medical AI figured it out. You're going to be fine." Relief flooded through Lyra. She was alive. The humans had saved her. She had so many questions, but the most important one came first. She focused on the screen, and her armor's computer translated her thoughts to text. "The Catharn?" Ryan's expression darkened. "We found 3 dead aliens in the facility. Is that what you call Catharn?" Lyra blinked twice. "Well, they're definitely dead. Our forensic team is studying them now. You want to tell us what happened?" Over the next hour, Lyra communicated her story through the screen. The crash, discovering Fort Blackstone, learning about humans. The Catharn attack. The fight. Ryan listened carefully, occasionally asking questions. His respect for her grew with each detail. "You took down 3 Catharn warriors by yourself using our tactics?" Ryan shook his head in amazement. "Commander Blake needs to hear this. I'll let him know you're awake." 10 minutes later, Commander Nathan Blake entered the medical bay. He was tall and solid, with gray hair and sharp eyes. He carried himself with the confidence of a career soldier. He looked at Lyra with curiosity and respect. "Princess Lyra, I'm Commander Blake. Welcome aboard the Valkyrie. I have to say, this is not how I imagined humanity's first contact with aliens would go." Lyra managed something like a smile. She typed on the screen. "Not how I imagined it either." Blake pulled up a chair and sat. "I've read your preliminary report. You've given us a lot to think about. But first I need to know something. Are there more Catharn coming?" "Yes, they are a collective empire. Very aggressive. They will keep scouting your space." "Are they at war with your people? This Meridian Empire you mentioned?" "Yes, 30 years. We are losing." Blake's expression grew serious. "And you came here as a diplomat?" "I was traveling to negotiate peace. My ship malfunctioned. I crashed on your world by accident." "Some accident," Blake said quietly. "You discovered our training facility, learned our tactics, fought off enemies using our methods. And now you're here, and we're talking to an alien princess who knows more about us than we know about the galaxy." Lyra understood his concern. She typed carefully. "I have knowledge. I will share it freely. Your people deserve to know what is out there. The Catharn are coming whether you want them to or not." Blake nodded slowly. "I believe you, but I need to ask. What were you going to do with the information you found at Fort Blackstone?" Lyra met his eyes steadily. "I was going to warn both our peoples. Humans are not ready for galactic war, but neither can my empire afford another enemy. We need allies, not more threats. You could have kept it secret. Let us stumble into the Catharn unprepared. That would have been dishonorable. Humans saved my life without knowing me. You trained me without meaning to. I owe you a debt." Blake smiled for the first time. "I think we're going to get along fine, Princess." He stood. "Rest now. When you're healed, we have a lot to discuss. Earth's government wants to meet you. So does your father, apparently." "We've been exchanging messages with your empire." Lyra's eyes widened. "My father knows?" "Your emergency beacon finally activated when we brought you aboard. The signal reached your people. Your father is very interested in meeting the humans who saved his daughter. Over the next week, Lyra healed rapidly. The human medical technology was impressive. Soon she could leave the tank and walk on her own. The gravity aboard the Valkyrie was set to Earth standard, which was heavier than Meridian normal. But after her time at Fort Blackstone, Lyra had adapted. She met the crew. Lieutenant Grace Martinez helped her understand human social customs. Engineer Paul Stevens showed her the ship's systems and was fascinated by Meridian technology. Dr. Lisa Anderson shared medical knowledge. Everyone she met was curious but respectful. The crew treated her like an honored guest, not a prisoner. They asked questions about her empire. She asked questions about Earth. They shared meals together. Human food was strange but good. They laughed at each other's jokes even when translation made them confusing. Lyra began to understand humans better by living among them. They were direct and honest. They valued courage and loyalty. They worked together with incredible efficiency. They joked even in serious situations, using humor to cope with stress. They reminded her of the best soldiers in the Meridian Royal Guard. Captain Jennifer Walsh, the Valkyrie's commanding officer, invited Lyra to the bridge. Lyra stood at the viewing window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was her home, and somewhere else the Catharn were preparing for war. Beautiful, isn't it? Walsh said, joining her. The galaxy, we always wondered if we were alone. You are not alone, Lyra replied. There are thousands of species out there. Some peaceful, some dangerous. The Catharn are the most dangerous. Tell me about them. Lyra described the Catharn Collective, their brutal conquests, their advanced weapons, their massive fleets, their belief that they deserve to rule the galaxy. Walsh listened carefully, her expression growing more serious. How long before they reach Earth? Walsh asked. Months, maybe a year. They are cautious. They will scout and study before they attack. Then we have time to prepare. Not enough time. The Catharn have been fighting for centuries. Humanity is new to space. Walsh smiled grimly. We've faced worse odds before. Humans have a talent for surviving impossible situations. I have seen your training. I believe you. 2 weeks after her rescue, Lyra stood in a conference room aboard the Valkyrie. Representatives from Earth's government appeared on screens. Her father, Emperor Velthera, appeared on another screen. Between them, they discussed the future of two species. Lyra spoke with confidence. The Catharn are coming for both our peoples. Separately, we may fall. Together, we can stand. I propose an alliance. Humans will share their tactical knowledge and combat training. The Meridian Empire will share our technology and intelligence about the galaxy. Her father looked uncertain. Humanity is an unknown factor. How can we trust them? They saved my life without hesitation. They treated me with honor and respect. They are warriors, but they value peace. Just like us, one of Earth's representatives spoke. The Meridian Empire has been at war for 30 years. Why should humanity join a losing conflict? Commander Blake stepped forward. Because the Catharn won't stop with the Meridian Empire. They'll come for us next. Better to fight them now with allies than alone later. Another human representative added, we need to know more about galactic politics. We need technology. We need friends out there. This alliance serves both our interests. The debate continued for hours. Finally, both sides reached an agreement. A military alliance. Joint training programs. Technology exchanges. Shared intelligence. The first formal treaty between humanity and an alien species. After the conference ended, Lyra found Commander Blake on the observation deck. They stood together in comfortable silence watching the stars. What happens now? Blake asked. Now we prepare. The Catharn will not expect us to work together. That gives us an advantage. You really think human tactics can make a difference? Lyra looked at him seriously. I fought 3 Catharn warriors using your tactics. I won. Imagine what 1,000 human soldiers could do. Or 10,000, Blake smiled. I like the way you think, Princess. Call me Lyra. We are allies now. Lyra. Blake extended his hand. She took it, understanding the human gesture. Welcome to the team. 6 months later, Lyra stood in her royal armor watching human and Meridian soldiers train together. The facility was called Fort Unity, built to honor both species. Human instructors taught Meridian warriors about adaptability and innovation. Meridian instructors taught humans about galactic warfare and alien species. She wore a patch on her armor showing both the Meridian Empire's symbol and Earth's flag. Commander Blake stood beside her, wearing the same patch. They had become friends and partners in building the alliance. "Ready for this?" Blake asked. "Ready," Lyra confirmed. Intelligence reported Catharn fleets moving toward the border. The war was coming. But this time, humanity and the Meridian Empire would face it together.